Hey, what's good, fam? I am excited to talk about all things not like us and Drake's defamation lawsuit. I thought I would do this as a live stream. I did kind of a recap of where we're at because we had initially reviewed Drake's verified petition, which he filed at the state court level, right? So he files a state court petition saying, hey, court, we're trying to get evidence, we're trying to get discovery. And so we were just curious to see, like, yikes, all kinds of yikes around this. But then the update had been, well, he withdrew the petition. We go, why did you do that? You know what I'm saying? Well, you don't think you have a case anymore? What's going on? There we go. As you guys are filing in, be sure to let us know where you're checking in from. What time is it? So after he withdrew the verified petition, he then filed a federal lawsuit. And the federal lawsuit is against Universal. Okay, so big part of the discussion. And the first thing that came to mind for me was, well, why are we filing this against only Universal? I mean, look, in the realm of if you're going to blame someone other than the person who actually said the words that you're saying caused you all this harm, why don't you sue Spotify? Right? So if you're saying that this whole thing was a Universal, was in cahoots with Spotify, okay, well, why wasn't Spotify named? Curious about that. But really, top of mind was, why did you not name Kendrick Lamar? So for the friends in the audience, hey, where are you guys checking in from? What time is it? Let's go. Anyone have an answer to this? So I want this to be, part community discussion. I had a call with a client today, a new client based in the UK. Very, very fun. Yo, let's go. So guys, this is a music business channel that I dedicate to, just covering what's going on in the music business and, giving you just education, helping you with your careers. But what I do through my law firm is intellectual property, is business law, right? And that is what makes entertainment law. So meaning I'm representing people who make stuff to sell. And that stuff can be things like music and films, right? NFTs, like all kinds of things. So that's what I do. That's what I love. But I'm also very passionate about all things music. So that's why we have a music business channel. So I do have the full complaint. All right. And I'm thinking we're going to kind of peruse on through this, but I definitely want your guys' feedback and comments. And I have Orko as well. I kind of wanted to bring him in because here's the thing. We sidebar about, all the cases that I cover, and we have I don't know, he has such great insights and questions and things like that. So why don't we just bring him in first and foremost. So I'm going to bring you in. Here we go.
Hey, shout out to the community. What's good? This has been going crazy. And, the video that you just dropped that we released covering, just kind of a quick overview of the situation. You were reading the first parts of that complaint and it was just like right out the gate. It was just like insane. And there's so many different, not just accusations, but just so much information that Drake is putting into this, lawsuit. And I'm wondering in this exposing, we've discussed this before, but in the exposing of UMG and their business practices, whether it be with streaming, their marketing, what they do, he's saying, I know because they've done this for me, and he's kind of exposing himself. So I feel like he is in his feelings so much that he is willing to expose himself just to get this going. But I don't know. I think this is unprecedented as far as a rap beef that has now escalated to a federal lawsuit. When have you seen this?
Yeah,
Like
but
Jay-Z
I'm
wasn't
just
suing Nas.
yeah, I mean it's escalated, and I mean essentially what's the basis of the claim is Drake saying, Universal, you were the one that fanned the flame, right? So the
Right.
flame, you didn't start it. I'm not saying you wrote the words that then caused the defamation and then caused really assault. And that's right to your point, how the
Right.
complaint started. Because here's the thing. When I research topics, I try not to be influenced by other people and their opinions and whatever. So, I just kind of start with the complaint, and I was expecting just to read something totally different. And then, we actually pull up the complaint, and it just, it starts very, very dramatically. In the middle of the night, there's a group of assassins. Well, actually, it said the word assailants. Anyway, some bad people drew up and, stopped the car, opened fire, security guard gets hit. I mean, and then concludes eventually there were bad things that happened and it was a direct result of Universal. I'm like, dude, if you're going to take this position, like,
It's
yikes. I mean,
weird.
that is terrifying
It's
without question.
weird.
And if you're going to take the position that it's because someone said words and posted pictures of your house and things like that, you're going like, but the record label promoted it and reshared and different,
Why? And not going, yeah, not going after Kendrick. I mean, he's blaming Kendrick, he's blaming YouTubers, he's blaming Spotify, he's blaming everybody, but just the fact that he just lost the battle. And I mean, the thing of it is, I mean, Kendrick has so many things coming up. I mean, there's Grammy nominations. He's got that Super Bowl performances. This Not Like Us is being played at every sporting event. It is just a part of the lexicon of the music and popularity in the culture. It really crossed over into something from just being a rap beef to an international like pop hit almost. As far as popular.
Well, and I thought you
And
made a good point last night. Sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say,
yeah,
I thought you made a really good point last night because you were like, it was kind of over. Like it's not over,
right.
but you know what I'm saying? Like its moment of being such a thing had just kind of passed, and this is reigniting
It's weird.
everyone talking about this.
It's weird. It's weird for somebody that wants the whole thing to go away and whatever to just keep kind of escalate this into new territory. And then, I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure that he has, losing some opportunity is probably kind of embarrassing everywhere he goes and it's played. I don't understand why he didn't just like come out with is just not in the studio hiring the best teams around him, which he has, to just keep writing either just more songs, maybe making a joke about it, or a couple verses going, it was funny, you know what I mean? Or I don't know. There's just so many ways to handle this, but it's coming off of like Karen vibes, and they're going after UMG. I'm sure it's because they have deeper pockets, but it's just weird. Like they're just the funnel, and he's willing to again just expose himself and his own what's happened with his own stuff.
Yeah, and then look, again, something you said yesterday where, we look at the complaint. In fact, just for context, every time I kind of pull up something, why don't I actually show you guys? So we just have, here we go. Okay, so like, this one spot in the complaints where it just, goes through the whole pedophile, portion. So, there was dangerous lyrics and Universal was capitalizing on attributes using every tool at its disposal to ensure that the world would hear that Drake, quote, liked him young. Okay. And something that you shared yesterday was, and actually, how do I stop sharing? Hang on, new format, trying to figure this out.
Do you want me to hit it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Where is it? Where's the anti-share? Stop sharing screen. Did I do it? There we go.
Anti-share.
And you made the point. You're like, I don't think anyone really thinks Drake's a pedophile. So talk about that.
Well, no, I mean, there's definitely, he has a history. I mean, there's stuff on him on stage where flirting with young girls and bringing young girls on stage, and there's definitely things, the Millie Bobby Brown thing and all this. But there's no, I don't know if anybody is like literally thinks that he, whatever. But I will say, I will say that is an unprecedented, phrase to be thrown in a diss track for a rap. I mean, that it is pretty crazy. Like, that was pretty hardcore. And a lot of people when this whole thing started were asking you, is there a defamation suit going to be
Right.
coming from this? Because it's just that's pretty hardcore, and we know how people take that kind of stuff very seriously. I'm talking about the public, and
And I
there's
think that's fair. I think that's fair. We have literally seen people who have suffered allegations of, some kinds of sex crime or pedophilia or whatever, and it's not
it's
true, but it's
hardcore.
over. They lose their jobs. We've seen people lose families, like all kinds of things just because the accusation was made. So I think that's fair.
So I get
think
it. I do. There is a part of me that like understands, and I think sometimes some of my opinions and some of my maybe my looseness of it comes from the fact that it's this is music. This has kind of been the culture of rap and hip hop, as far as there's always been artist beefs and diss tracks. And, we're in 2025 and everything gets stepped up. And Kendrick just took it to, the nuclear level on it, and just was relentless. And he had an amazing production behind the song, and it was just incredibly catchy. And I think all those ingredients hitting at the right time, with the state of the world and people wanted the distraction, it worked. But
Okay.
Drake is still like the number one streamed artist. Like, all
Well,
this
right.
defamation.
And I want to come back to that. But real quick, Joe Trey says, does the doctrine of clean hands apply in this case? Drake accused Kendrick of domestic violence. So in the, here's the thing.
We were talking
It's
about that
kind of like
yesterday too.
the culture of music and how things are being handled. Because here's the thing, as the attorney being like, well, didn't he say this, right? And it's, allegedly defamatory. Well, yeah. Now, is it an argument like he said something, so I'm allowed to say something? No, these are separate somethings. There can be two equally valid claims of defamation, but outside of the context of the law.
I mean, Drake is no stranger to rap beefs. I mean, he lost the Pusha T. But but I mean, it's just, but I get it. But here's a couple comments. Liking him young could mean he likes 20-year-olds. He's turning it into thinking Kendrick called him up. Well, I mean, he actually, used that language in the song. So yeah, I mean, it's clearly
Right, with the A minor thing, right?
well, just yeah. And I mean, he actually says pedophile. Also, Kendrick just said Drake likes him young. Yeah, it could be 30. Understood. But I mean, I think they're they're referencing to other things that are online and rumors and things. But just like nonetheless, like in the context of it, there could have been another way that I think Drake could have handled it. But again, I understand defending yourself, and I understand, like that's pretty crazy. It's just not like Kendrick was just like you're a terrible rapper. You're not of the culture.
Well, and even right here. So, in stark contrast, Drake confronted Universal about its role in promoting allegations of sexual misconduct lacking, quote, the slightest factual basis, end quote, against him. Universal refused to do anything to help. Instead, Universal continued to publish and promote the defamatory material, even after Drake had unequivocally denied the allegations in public. So, I guess I go back to what I had shared yesterday and just I gotta figure out how to unshare this. How do I unshare this? This is yeah, I got it. I got it. All right. So this goes back to what I was saying. Yesterday I go, okay, what did Drake expect Universal to do? I mean, really what he's saying is that he expected Universal to pull the song, pull the video, right?
Mhm.
Because unless you do that as the distributor,
Well, because I'm
going to
Drake.
distribute it.
I'm King Drake. What are you talking about? You're not going to pull it. Drake told you to do something. I'm your cash cow. I'm the number one artist next to Taylor Swift. What do you so I get it. I think there is a lot of just expectation and but then we're talking about like censorship. And then we're talking about, then the song gets even bigger because then it's even bigger because UMG pulled the song and everyone's going crazy for it because they want to hear it. And it's just like even bigger on the underground. And it just makes, Drake look even, more petty. I don't know.
Well, and you had said yesterday, you go, if Drake had just kind of like to that last comment, right, laughed it off, right, and just let it be what it's gonna be, and not made a further stink, so to speak, and then this is honestly what like these big rock stars do. They let some time go by, and then they come back with their next three hits, and you just win over public opinion by just being really good at what you do, and then people's memories are what they are and they forget and they just move on.
Listen, there's so many artists that have been bodied from rap beefs and, their careers have survived. And I don't know. I just but it is interesting. So I have a question for you. I mean, I know you're about to get into the complaint, but I have a question for you. I wrote it down. If this happens, all right, let's say Drake wins this case. I know I'm getting ahead of it because you're about to pull him up and we're gonna go through it. But if Drake ends up winning this case, is this just opening up and setting a precedent for other rappers that don't like when other rappers are saying something about them? And now this is like changing the culture of it because let's say he gets a payday from this. Let's say he gets, all those kind of things. And now so other rappers like, oh, I didn't know that we could do this. And they're like, I don't care because it's a it could be argued that in 2025 it's a softer generation than maybe in the previous, the 90s or whatever, the 80s and 70s, whatever. Um, that this is just becomes the way that it's done now. Now it's just like he sets a precedent if he wins, that now it's just like you better not say anything bad because someone's just going to file a defamation or some kind of lawsuit against you. Now again, he's not going after Kendrick, but just nonetheless, is it going to
Well,
make you
right, and
think
that's
twice?
and that's the answer. It's, well, he didn't sue Kendrick, so no. If there's any precedents set, right, that this would just be
Oh, I love
persuasive,
this. Hold
it's
on.
that.
Right here. Right here. Love this. And some don't make it back from MGK. Facts. He had to switch after Eminem bodied him. He had to switch to whole other genres, and then that didn't work out. So some don't make it back, but
Hmm.
some a lot do. Jay-Z is doing just fine, and I mean, I still argue that Ether is one of the greatest ever from Nas. But that was a different situation as well. Go ahead.
Well,
So I'm
and
sorry.
what I was saying was just, as far as, will it impact the record labels and distributors, right? And what I talked about yesterday is, I said, well, it already is. Distributors, for example, will stop you guys from distributing your
Right.
music, right? And that gets into the censorship issue because, in their
The hate
terms of
speech.
service, they go, we have a problem with what you're saying because it's hate speech, or it's too religious, it's too political, whatever. And so they reserve the right to not distribute your stuff if they don't want to. So, you could say, well, they're just taking a position against you. You could say, no, they're doing the right thing. It's ethical. It's moral, whatever. And so that's where I go to with this. I go, well, that's Drake. Drake's asking for that. He goes, if you are allowing something to, be promoted that is defamatory to me, that's no good. And in fact, he says in the complaint, months
Fair
prior
enough,
to
though.
filing.
His I think Drake's upsetness and his maybe even anger towards UMG. I get it. I get it. Like I get it. I get it. I don't know if it's lawsuit, but I get it. Like I would be pissed. Like his, even though it's just crazy. He's so popular that even with all of this, I mean, his bottom line is being affected, but it's not like crazy. Like, there's I think that some of his reputation, and the longer that this kind of keeps getting dragged out in the public, again, I don't know why he doesn't just get a team together and write like 5 songs in a row that are just like hits, or something that makes fun of this, or something that just gets him back on the in the public, and on the good side of the public. And I'm not talking about making some like donation somewhere, or it's just like I'm throwing money out of it. Like, come back with some heat. Like, you have
Well,
it in
that's
you.
what I'm saying. Do you actually think that Drake has been actually harmed by this? Is he losing
Yes,
brand
yes.
deals?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do. I do. I think his reputation has severely been harmed, but I don't think it's because of what the song that Kendrick did. I think Drake is hurting himself. I think Drake's response to all this, and Drake's handling of this, and keep the escalation of it, and I think it's hurting him. Of course, his fans that are ride or die are always going to be there, and that's why I just keep saying, as long as you keep putting out good material and good songs, people will stop caring about that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying, your
Yeah,
general
be
public.
it good or bad. Be it good or bad. And here's the thing. We see these people who end up getting canceled over something, right? Whatever it is, they end up getting canceled over something. I don't even think this is what this situation is. I don't think that Drake is getting canceled.
Oh no,
I
I
think
don't. I
that
don't think so. I think in some, but I do think in some circles he has been. Shout out! I got to do it. I'm gonna do a short one because I want to keep this going. But I got to shout
yeah,
out.
this is.
Thank you so much for your super chat.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, so no, I was gonna go to the complaint really fast. So right here, where he goes, I went to Universal. So this is what Drake says here. He goes, many months prior to the actual lawsuit, Drake attempted to address these claims privately with Universal. Drake believed, per Sir Grenage, that Universal's leadership should be held accountable for the decisions we make and how we conduct ourselves. Universal purports to care about threatening and abusive behavior, including Universal's code of conduct. So this is like, it sounds like an internal policy. It notes that, quote, harassment can take different forms, such as speech that is threatening or abusive, and declares that violence, threats, and physical intimidation are not tolerated by Universal Music.
See, I don't know, but that's but because you never like there's a lot of artists that are that send different kinds of shots and threatening lyrics towards other people, or have that or telling stories about that. And I don't know how Universal. I don't know if Universal is going to be like, oh, we will never promote any of that kind of stuff, because there's so much violence and so much, like, we see with all these, like, like dirt cases and all this kind of stuff, where people are literally, and all these lawsuits about, or court cases where they're saying, we don't even want your rap lyrics admitted into the courts and stuff. They shouldn't be held against you in these things. Words are words. We're just having fun. We're just doing whatever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how much of it is perceived by the public? How much of the argument is it's tongue in cheek, right? Calling you a pedophile. That's a very, very serious allegation. But how many people, after hearing that, are like, "Oh yeah, he is."
I think people will have fun with it in the song. I think he could end up being like a I don't want this is a bad example, but just like not like a joke rapper or something like that. But people are always gonna, when they hear Drake, they're going to be like, oh yeah, but you remember, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's always going to kind of be that, until he gets away with it with business as usual. Drake is a great businessman. He's a great, he knows how to make money. He knows how to put out songs. He knows how to market. He knows, this is like his Achilles heel that he can't seem to get out from under. And I don't know, even if he wins this case, that it's going to help his situation out. Because, like, maybe he's like, oh, it's easier to go after UMG because everybody hates the record label. Everybody wants the record label. They're villains and they're just awful. So now it's me. I'm Drake, and I'm going up against. In a way, maybe he's like, I'm a superhero standing up for your rights because I'm showing you that we won't take this. Everybody rally behind me. And I don't know if he's taking the temperature correctly, but I do
Well,
understand his frustration.
Yeah, and guys, remember, I pointed this out, that at the end of the complaint, in what do you want the court to do? It's called the wherefore, the prayer for relief. And in the prayer for relief, Drake put he just wants nominal damages, right? And I felt like that was the attempt to be like, it's not about money, because we can speculate and say you're suing Universal because they have deep pockets, and maybe this is just a money thing. I don't think this is just a money thing personally, but the attorneys for Drake went the extra mile to be like, this truly isn't about money. We just want nominal damages. Now, here's the thing. That's cute. You can get $1 of nominal damages, and you can get like $1 million in punitives. So
he never calls Drake a pedo. Well, he implies it through the whole song, and then his whole cruise when he's saying certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Like, I mean, he's I understand that he's talking about other people that are around him in a circle, but I mean, it's clear when you hear the certified lover boy and that's his album, that's what he's talking about as the crew. So that's what I'd argue. And then I would argue, for Drake, as far as that goes, that's definitely the perception of, because those are the lines that stick out to your average, person, I would say.
yeah. Okay, so let me go down in here. So, remember, what we're talking about is defamation. In lawyer land of a defamation claim, guys, let me just tell you right now, proving a defamation claim is so unbelievably difficult. Like, using this as a bar, there was a teacher who got accused of sexual misconduct with a minor, and he lost his job, right? His family fell apart, financial devastation, all this stuff. And it turns out the whole thing was a lie. Okay. So, you have these scenarios where someone's life is completely devastated from it, but then you also have cases that are just that serious, and it turns out they're true, and someone can still not win a defamation claim. So, when people approach me, for example, and they're like, hey, Krystle, let's, we want to sue him for defamation because this happens all the time. We represent creators and entrepreneurs and people who are online. And, and then we have to have this conversation, be like, look, happy to sue, happy to take this case on your behalf, but understand that this is an uphill battle. It's very hard to prove that because of these statements, you were harmed in these ways. Because now, again, it goes back to, because of these words that someone else wrote, Universal is liable. Well, what about and we'll talk about this, right? What about every YouTuber who has gotten on this platform and reshared the message? Because if you're telling me that Universal is liable because they reshared the message, is Drake going to sue every one of us on this platform talking about it?
I saw somebody either had a message earlier. I will look into this later, so I'm not reporting this as information, but somebody said that the YouTubers that were mentioned maybe are talking about filing some kind of action against Drake. or something like that. For I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm not reporting that information. This stuff is obviously developing, and there's a lot of conversations, and there were a lot of major YouTubers that were named. So I mean, if his goal was for this thing to kind of go away and be done,
Yep.
like it's like how long could this possibly take? Like what do you think the average of this, we're looking at for just like time of this being stretched out and being talked about for what, like the next 2-3 years, like year and a half, 2 year, like.
Yeah, and then the complaint goes on and it goes, look, as far as damages, right, we have to say how was he actually harmed? And that's why they started the complaint with the, hey, people are literally shooting at, Drake and his family, and we think it's because of what's going on with the song and what Universal's participation. But they go on to kind of paint the picture of Drake, right? So they go, Drake does a whole bunch of things. He's involved in all these things, but he also is a celebrity, duh. And he's been, he gets approached for collaborations, partnerships, endorsement deals. He's also a philanthropist, right? So he is praised for, giving generous donations. And so, in his nonprofit efforts, this all is, not making him look so very good.
I don't know.
Now, here's the thing. Let's play devil's advocate for those of you in the audience. Universal is indeed, an industry giant, and indeed spends tens of millions of dollars on their biggest artists to, in fact, blow them up. And that's why with the, the initial move of him filing that verified petition saying, I'm trying to get evidence to prove that Universal inflated the numbers for Not Like Us, I totally believe that there's some truth to this, because I believe that, Drake probably knows. I bet Universal has done this for him. That's probably why he knows. And so, kind of in this effort of being like, Universal's role in this is not small. I think we can be fair about that, right? And so to the extent he goes, well, obviously Universal did play a big part in this song,
Sure.
but were they the ones that made it the success? Right? Is that narrative
That was
accurate?
that was the discussion in the pre action filing or whatever it was, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
that it was all inflated, that nobody was really listening to that song, that it just talking about how Spotify and they were just in cohorts, and I think in cohorts, and I think that there is a lot of that is true. I think that there was probably inflating, like I think UMG inflates all of their artists. I think it's just common practice. I think it's just kind of a a borderline of what happens. But it was going viral on TikTok. It was going viral on YouTube from content creators. I didn't need to listen on Spotify. It was everywhere else, from different people, and the comments were it kind of spoke for themselves on it. I thought the track was super fire. Like myself, like it was infectious. It was like a hit song. It works for so many great things, like just like the whole like Not Like Us, like phrasing, like just works for so many things. And I think it's going to be a part of everything. It works perfectly for sports. It works for, just people could kind of feel a part of something. And, we live in a society where people love to take down who's at the top. And this was a chance for someone to go after someone who is super rich and super privileged. I do think that kind of plays into, F Drake. Who is he? Like I'm tired of hearing about Drake all the time. I think there's some of that, as far as public opinion. So because it wasn't just like Kendrick Lamar fans that were into it. It was your neighbor down the street that was playing it. It was, your mom heard the song,
Right. No, and you know what? I think like the tail end of 2024, there was kind of, it felt like, because there was all these things going around of like unfollow celebrities, right? We're all going to, F everyone. We're all going to on the same day unfollow people. And there was a little bit of that happening. So you're saying maybe that kind of fed into this, that this became, I don't know, this became something greater than just being a fan of either artist.
It was shocking. The diss track was shocking. As far it was so public, and it was after somebody, and Drake got so in his feelings about it, and just forget the the effects of it now. The rollout of Kendrick Lamar's just diss track after diss track after diss track. It was like not as far as apply that to your music that isn't like diss track music. You know what I mean? Like the rollout was crazy as far as just how it was just one thing after another, and Drake couldn't keep up, and it was a time when there was people wanted the distraction. It just everything was just lined up right.
Right. Okay. So earlier we saw a comment about Super Bowl, right? So you mentioned about how this has even impacted sports, and I know that there's accusations about, well, is Universal just all doing this because maybe one, they have a new contract they need to do with Kendrick, so they're trying to get in his good graces. This was actually leading up to the Super Bowl. We want to make sure that it's a big splash. I mean, do you think there's any truth to that?
I don't know if that's the main truth, but I definitely think that Drake's camp, they definitely don't want the song to win a Grammy. They definitely don't want it on the biggest sporting event in the world. You know, people there's gonna be, I think, as we come up to the Super Bowl, and depending on how this lawsuit comes, I think that we are gonna see that this Kendrick Lamar's performance of this song. Will he do it? Will he not do it? Will he change words? What will Drake? Will Drake be at the Super Bowl? Will Drake leave during the halftime show? Is there going to be, like, I think that this could even bring as much hype for whatever teams are even playing. Like, I think that this is going to be one of the biggest Super Bowls, especially for halftime performance, that there's ever been, just because people are going to want to see. And then the next day, everybody, all the YouTubers, all the TikTokers, and probably ourselves included, are probably going to say something about this. This is just a phenomenon that's happening that just keeps giving us more and more content all the time, and you can't get away from it. I mean, we try to, but people like, what's going on with it? They keep going with it. What's going on? Talk about Drake.
That's right. I thought this was interesting. Universal's executives are handsomely compensated. And for exploiting artists' works, Universal reports that its executives' compensation is driven by its transition for more performance-based packages. So how well their artist does means how much money the executives get paid. That's what they're alleging. Universal executives, including those at Interscope, have an annual incentive program through which they are rewarded for meeting and surpassing sales and profits projection. I mean, I believe all this. The incentives are largely based on specific Universal divisions rather than performance of Universal. For example, the annual incentive or bonus of Interscope's CEO, John Janik, is based 90% on the financial success of Interscope and only 10% on the financial success of Universal generally. All right. So, I mean, but that's the thing. A lot of companies do that. They go, hey, you make us do good. So, meaning you get the artists to have their songs go viral, fan the flame, do all the stuff. Therefore, it makes us more money. We pay you more money. I mean, that's the name of the game for like so many positions in just
Sure.
entertainment.
Here's a couple comments here. They're both under the same umbrella. They did it for both during this, and I believe that. I think they may have inflated the Spotify numbers for Kendrick. They may have inflated Drake's numbers
Well, no, and
during
then
this battle
what
for
do we
both.
say, right? So inflated, we talk about
Mm,
fraudulent fake streaming
maybe
versus,
not
I mean,
advertising and deals with Spotify to get them on playlists or whatever backdoor
I
deals that they
think
have.
I think it was Russ that was talking about this. But recently someone was just talking about like, dude, don't be so worried about like what your competitor independent artist is doing, because for
Right.
them to
We
have
don't
their
know the budget.
successful
Yeah.
organic rollout of their song, they just went and dropped $100,000
Right.
on their TikTok ad campaign. So same thing. Literally, I promise you guys, because I represent the big boys, okay? I promise you guys on the back end, even with the big artists, the signed artists, all that, everyone's doing the same crap, which is they are paying to play.
Well, everybody needs the perception. They need the
Yeah.
perception of looking like they're doing something that it's hard to sing about, like how you're amazing, or have flex and all the time, but if your numbers don't reflect that, so they need to reflect that. It's all a business. It's like you're being advertised. It's like when you see the advertisements for Burger King and stuff, like those aren't really the Burger King burgers that come out of, that you're being served. They got them painted and toothpicks, and every sesame seed or whatever is
It's
placed
funny.
just right. So it's all marketing, and it's all advertising. Everything you see, all the reality TV you see is scripted. You know what I mean? Like, it's all an illusion.
It's so
um
funny. Will they hire a hip hop expert to explain to the jury what a beef is? Here's the thing: when
I'm
we
sure
do,
stuff
when
like
we
that.
when we are doing trials, I'm a litigation attorney, and so early in the case, you have to think through, who do you want to potentially call on the stand to be an expert. And what is that expert going to talk about? So in a case like this, you'd probably want an expert who can talk about, budgeting, marketing. You want to have a finance guy to explain this. You probably want someone who is really experienced, like marketing, to explain how this works, right? Because then you have a jury of people who have never heard of this stuff before. And so, yeah, you'd absolutely hire experts.
I don't know about this, but this is interesting. I don't know if this was in the complaint, but this is interesting. UMG removed copyright claims on Not Like Us so YouTuber reaction channels can monetize the reaction videos. Now,
I wonder. That's interesting.
that would
I don't know that personally, but
but even that, like, that would be a smart marketing play for them. You know what I mean? For just to make sure that they're to encourage these kind of things. But I mean, did they also do that with Drake's songs as well, so people could react as? I don't know, but that would be interesting if that is true.
well, and
Um,
guys, one kind of like insider thing I can tell you about is that major record labels 100% do this, where they used to file copyright strikes on people's videos when you use the music without authorization, videos without the authorization, even if you had a claim of fair use. They don't do that anymore. They actually have a deal with YouTube. The major labels have a deal and they go, we're going to monetize, typically, we're going to monetize other people's content when they use our stuff or whatever. But I always argue, I'm like, why would you do anything other than allow people just to talk about your stuff? Because it then promotes it.
what all the lawsuit business is doing is just directing more and more attention to the widening the audience that will listen to the song now. Um,
Huh.
that's interesting. The LA pop out show proves how popular the song was. The entire audience knew the song word for word. They played it 5 times in a row. And then, just even Mustard did a set at, Camp Flog recently, and he, also played the song still, and everybody was singing every single word at the Tyler show. So, I mean, it was a huge song. You can't deny that. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
See, people,
So
Drake is trying to stop the Grammys in the Super Bowl finale.
Okay, so Universal publishes the defamatory material on May 4th, 2024, pursuant to its publication and licensing, because Universal has the right to distribute the music. Universal puts it out there, okay? Universal has the exclusive license via Interscope, right? Interscope is a division of Universal. Since the initial publication, the song has been streamed over 990 million times on Spotify alone. As of the filing of this, I can imagine it's probably even more now. The recording repeatedly accuses Drake of engaging in criminal acts, including, of course, pedophilia, sex offenses, right? Within the first minute, right? We hear, say, Drake, I hear you like him young. You better not go to cell block 1. The recording continues to say that any woman who falls in love with Drake should be careful to hide her little sister from him.
Here's a question for you. Do you think they'll go after Amazon next since they streamed the Pop Out concert? Like, how far do you think it'll go, or do you think it'll just stay here and we'll see what happens with? Keep dropping your guys' questions if you guys have questions about specifically, or the law or legal questions or whatever as well.
Well, what was the case we recently covered? I think it was the Flowers, right? So Miley Cyrus song. We saw that when there's a lawsuit filed and they're like, you infringed our rights. So they're like, we're a part owner in the Bruno Mars, song. We're gonna sue. And we go, Miley, you have infringed. And they ended up suing not just Miley, right? And the other songwriters, but they actually sued all the music platforms. You remember that? And they're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Amazon and Apple and like the Gambit. So the answer is yes, at some point. But that's my point, guys. That's my point. I go, there is a sole focus on Universal right now, not Kendrick, not any other platform that may have distributed us, not a partner who signed and licensed and did a deal for this song. That's what I'm talking about. I go, why just Universal?
You can't accuse a person of crime in a rap beef. Law is not rap. Well, I mean, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to go back. Like, this could set, if he wins this, it set a whole precedent of just people just going, well, now you're just you're defaming me. Their song got really popular. I lost the rap beef. So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, but we used to cover a lot of the like rap videos, right? And so we look at if you're admitting something in your song because you're trying to get like credibility, right? And you're talking about crimes that you've committed and whatever, and then how that's actually used against you later on in the court of law. You have to be very careful with what you say, but it goes across the board. If you are calling me up and we're having a consultation, you're like, hey, I'm trying to I'm beefing it out, man, like YouTubers, right? Like it's so great for your channel to get on and talk about your drama and whatever, but you have to be careful because, on one hand, you might be like, nothing ever happens. They're not going to sue me. It's so expensive. They have to get an attorney. They have to find me, all that stuff. But then on the flip side, then you're Drake and you do have the means to go through with
Right.
it. You do have the lawyers to go through with it.
We have a super chat.
Hey.
It was a huge deal to the reaction community that Kendrick didn't obstruct or claim not like us, especially, and everyone monetized and did well. That's great. I mean, that's great. I mean, that Kendrick and UMG did that. Obviously there's a huge reaction community, and I'm sure that they would love if more songs were available to them to, just at the very least be able to split the monetization instead of just like claiming it. But we thank you so much for that $5.
I mean, even this, look at this, right? So, they make mention in the complaint. They're like, hey, look at these images. These images, right? Universal didn't make them from scratch. They just reshared them. But the images feature an aerial view of Drake's Toronto home, including identifying information regarding the location. It's covered in icons used by law enforcement and public safety to identify sex offenders, right? And so they go, look, you guys are resharing this everywhere. I mean, the truth of it is that there's a little bit of a pass that did happen. Can we imagine if all these things happened and it wasn't Drake and it wasn't Kendrick, right? Can we be fair about this? What if this was I'm trying to think of, Sabrina Carpenter. Someone posted.
Well,
Sabrina
no, what was it? What was it? Like the Taylor Swift's Selena Gomez beef. Wasn't that the was it Dead Space song? No, what was that song called? The Blank Space. Was it, or is that the song that's about one of those songs? Remember there was a controversy, Taylor Swift had a song that was about throwing shade at Selena Gomez or something like that. From
well, let's talk about the beef. So then you just have now completely different people, and we're even using artists again in this. But I'm just like, does that change anyone's thoughts on this? Does that change anyone's analysis on this? That if we were literally telling you where to go find Taylor Swift, and then someone shows up and shoots her house and shoots her security guard, and we go, no, I mean, truly, Universal should have done something when Selena Gomez, put out her song.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just saying.
It might be a little bit different because this is rap beefs or the rap beefs. You know what I'm saying? But there's obviously been other band beefs in the past, either was it I want to say a Slipknot versus a Limp Biscuit, or a, you know what I mean? Or just Limp Bizkit had a lot of people against them at one point, or just these kind. I'm trying to think of just some of the old rock beefs and stuff that there were, Motley Crue with I'm spacing, but yeah.
No, but just the whole you brought it on yourself kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? If we could just, see Drake's side in this for a second of being like, look,
Nirvana, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, you threw into this is what you get, but taking it outside into someone that we could feel more sympathetic towards, because that's what it is. I don't think people feel very sympathetic towards Drake for all kinds of reasons. And so if it was someone that you could feel sympathetic towards, would that change your analysis? And you'd be like, look, the defamation thing, totally get it. I agree. Does anyone feel like that or no? It doesn't matter. If you're going to get into some kind of beef, no matter who you are, this is what you get.
Freedom of speech, not freedom of consequences.
Okay, and then
I had something. Yeah, you were right. The law is the law, not fan opinion. I agree. And that's the point. It's that's why I keep asking of, I could sit here and have, I'm not an attorney. I can sit here and have all my opinions as just someone that follows it and just listens and has that, I'm a music producer and I'm, a hip hop fan and all this kind of stuff and just music fan. So following this is very interesting, but that's why I ask, is this going to set a precedent? Because it's not about my feelings. It's not about the fans' feelings. This is a federal lawsuit, and it's going to have to be, judged and dealt with accordingly. I think he's requested like a jury trial for this, right? So it's going to be, that's what's going to determine it, and that's what I'm curious to see what happens, and just trying to understand what the future of music in these types of situations could have.
Okay, so let's think about that for a second. So he had said in his prayer for relief, I just want nominal damages. This is not about getting me paid, but there is a request for punitive damages. Guys, I mean, punitive damages can just be massive, massive. So a jury could award like $1 of actual damages and then like $1 million, $10 million, because it is an amount that is awarded by the jury to punish and make an example of
Right.
someone or a
Right.
company. And so, like for example, if there was a massive, massive judgment, via punitive damages or otherwise against Universal, are you telling me, you don't think that would impact whether Universal and other record labels are willing to get behind something that is so charged? Again, it's a cost
Right.
benefit analysis. Another part of us lawyers and what we do. Sometimes we have to have a conversation with the client and be like, look, this could result in this claim, this breach, this, whatever. And is the benefit of you
Right.
doing the
Is it
bad
worth it?
thing still worth it?
We have another super chat here from Victor. In your
Hey.
professional opinions, what portions of the suit, if any, are likely to be thrown out on merits? Why or why not?
Well, there's 3 counts, right? So there's a lot of storytelling, over the course of 91 pages, okay, of this thing. About 10 of which are like exhibits and stuff. But um, you know, besides the factual background, there's 3 counts. One is defamation. Okay? You defamed by resharing all this stuff and fanning the flame. Okay? And then there is you are secondarily liable for essentially, assault. And then third, it's a state law claim, and it actually goes back to the you boosted and you lied to people publicly about the success of the song. So that's a violation of business law,
Ethics.
here in New York. And that's essentially what's going on here. So, on the huge uphill battle for, Drake is really going to be the defamation. I mean, the whole thing, quite frankly. But the defamation claim, like I was telling you guys, is so tough. It is very hard to be successful on a defamation claim because remember what we are going up against. It is free speech. And then you have to prove, right, that it was false.
And oh, before again, gotta show the I love those cats so much. There's another good comment here. I mean, Ja Rule didn't even sue when he was destroyed, and 50 just keeps destroying Ja Rule. So like over many years, this has been going on. Just another rap beat that didn't sue, and I mean, like it was 50 kind of limo.
And guys, let me restate something that I said. The second claim specifically is harassment. I know I misstated that. So it's harassment. It's that, you are republishing this stuff and it's causing literally harassment in the second degree. So anyway, it's going to be an uphill battle. Now, something that we were talking about is all the people who are participating to this conversation and YouTubers who have had massive, massive success on their videos. I'm gonna see if I can find it really fast on in the complaint.
That's a good beef that stepped out of the rap when Mariah did the was it the why you so with me?
That's right.
It did the whole portraying him in the video and stuff. The great song.
Yeah, it's funny, guys. In these lawsuits, we always see some of these other YouTubers getting referenced because they either are part of like exposing something or oh, here we go. All right. So here, let me just see if I can share this.
Can't feel sorry for someone who dishes out the same fuel. Rap is an adversarial genre of music. There are people who make their livings as battle rappers. Drake claims to be a rapper, but he's really a pop star. Kendrick is a rapper. This is why. I mean, I do agree that Drake is kind of more like pop rap, But I mean, like the dude's a rapper. Like he raps. He's got lyrics. I mean, I remember Degrassi. Let's stop playing. He's been doing it. He's been doing it since Degrassi. All right, and I've seen. Oh, got another super chat. Sorry, got to come out. Drop
Hey,
Barracuda, $2. Drake is suing Kendrick is USA cultural appropriation. Well, that is a accusation that has been made many times over. I don't, but Ripley
mhm.
appreciates you.
All right, let me go back to where I
He
was
gets
at in
them.
the complaint. Okay, so it goes Universal took other unprecedented steps to promote the defamatory material on May 4th. 2024, Universal removed the song's copyright restriction on YouTube. This is what we were talking about. Removed the copyright restriction on YouTube and Twitch, thereby whitelisting the song on information and belief. This action was directed by Interscope's executive president and head of digital marketing. This whitelisting was done purportedly and with the full knowledge
Okay.
of Universal
Okay.
for the purpose of spreading the recording and its defamatory content as broadly as possible and as quickly as possible.
You mean
Universal,
marketing?
right? Universal. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Universal has a formal ban on whitelisting and
Okay.
has never before whitelisted a song on any. I mean, that's quite the statement. Never whitelisted a song on any platform to plaintiff's knowledge. In or about June of 2024, Universal reinstituted the copyright restriction on this song, Not Like Us. The effect of the whitelisting, the song was massive and immediate, able to play the recording in full on their own videos and to profit from them. Content creators rushed to republish the recording in reaction videos. Here are just a few examples.
So
All right,
here,
so
so before you get into that, let me ask you a question just based on that. If so he's saying that they've never done it before, they haven't done these things to try to prove that wouldn't be a part of any of Drake's contract with Universal to be like that would be more of Kendrick's deal with Universal than Drake's deal as far as like you whitelisted my song. If anybody has a beef with that, it should be Kendrick Lamar because he's losing the revenue from the song by giving it to reactors. That's nothing to do with Drake. Now, and I'm sure, Drake can't dictate how UMG does its marketing practices. If they decide you're right, if they never did it, well, today's a new day, my guy. Like I don't owe you anything as far as, the way that I decide to try a new tactic because when maybe one of our new interns suggested it because he's friends with a YouTuber and they're like, you know what, we should do this and it'll help blow it up. We're seeing our numbers indicate a ground surge and we need to exploit this. Reactors want to do it. My reactor guy said, is there any way I can get this song whitelisted? A lot of people have criticisms I've seen about Rick Beato and the fact that Rick Beato, when he does his music, breakdowns and stuff like that, he'll play full on copyrighted material and he
right,
seems to be able
right.
to get away with it. So maybe he has a deal with some of these labels because he brings so much good attention to them. I don't know, but I don't know that's for Drake to say.
Right. Well, the argument would be it's none of your business, Drake
Right.
or Kendrick Lamar, on how we whitelist or not whitelist. Now,
Right.
the argument, and I think it's a fair argument, is that they will have to prove this. They will have to prove this in evidence to be like, for all your campaigns, for all the years. I mean, really, all they have to do is just be like, no, we've done this before. And then it just blows up, their argument. But the numbers are, I mean, this goes more to the popularity, I think, of the song. So they go, all right, here's a list of some of the YouTubers
Power of
and what
hits.
happened with these numbers. So they go, the Cartiers, that you say that family, whose YouTube channel has 1.44 million subscribers, posted a video depicting the image and using the song. As of the date of the filing, the video has 2 million views. Okay, that's big. Twitch streamer No Life Shack posted a 14.5-minute clip of this reaction to the recording on his YouTube channel, which has almost 5 million subscribers. As of the date, the video has 5.3 million views.
Does Drake get upset when reactors react to his music when something comes out and they're all on his side and they love it and they're trying to blow it up and they're not getting monetized because those songs aren't whitelisted? Does he bring that same energy about it? So is his beef that he lost money monetization on those YouTube songs, or I mean he wouldn't have gotten it? Is it just that just encouraging? I don't even understand what the like you're mad because YouTubers responded and the community responded to something that I don't understand what the
Well, In the
bringing that up
complaint,
is.
this is actually a mistake by the attorney because they're the attorney who drafted this because it goes, "These content creators could not have legally republished the defamatory material, so they could not have legally done this from the reaction videos without Universal first whitelisting the recording." No, 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 no.
They could do
That's
it
not how that
anyway.
works. Under fair use, you can, for commentary, criticism, reaction, right? For educational purposes, you can. That's why reaction videos are generally okay, so long as you are not just sitting there in total silence and you never say anything. You just sit there and you watch and you replay it. Now, that's probably not going to qualify as fair use. If you're watching it in real time and you give feedback, right? And you transform the content, that's why it's permissible. But
The only thing about it
yeah,
is
huge.
is their content, and if they do get a copyright claim or a strike that's just put on their thing and then they have to send it to review, it could take up to a few days, up to like a month or something like that
Which
for
is which is true, which is to be like, I do you know, it sounds accurate for what they're saying, that, like, they probably whitelisted it because we've done that before. Something new drops, and we jump on it, we
yeah.
do a lawyer's reaction, whatever, and that thing just gets tied up because we have to go through a process. We have to draft a little, you know, lawyer text and, like, send a response and be like, "Hey, no, this is fair use," and we gotta wait, and then usually it gets released because it's fair
Yeah.
use, but we still have to go through that process. So, I don't know the timing on this of how fast their reaction videos went up, but we have some really big ones. So let's keep going on this, right?
Yeah.
So they go, there was, you know, for example, Twitch streamer, gaming post, reaction depicting the image using the song. Look at this, 4.5 million. We see Kai posted a 20-minute video on his reaction channel. He has 11.6 million subscribers. The video thumbnail depicts the image. As of the date of the filing of the video is over 9 million views. I mean, what they're saying on like this thing was so widespread, but they're like, it's so widespread because you whitelisted this. You allowed people to do this because they wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. No, that's not true.
Super chat got in here, $4.99 super chat. Drake shouldn't get personal if he doesn't like it done to him. Thank you so much for that super chat, Spartan. And you know what time it is.
Oh man. So UMG's media campaign successfully spread the defamatory materials to billions. Again, it was doing real good on its own, but they're saying, you know, the campaign spread, it was successful. Most single day streamed song in the US with 13 million streams in 24 hours. I mean, you know, those are amazing numbers for sure. Within the first week, the song debuted #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with 70.9 million official streams, 5 million radio airplay, audience impressions. Just a week later, the song broke the record for the most streamed song in a 7-day period, 96 million streams.
I pulled this comment up again. I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to pile on Drake or anything like that, because I'm definitely not. But Shane Gillis also said years ago Drake was going to be caught based on his weird behavior. Why didn't he sue him? And so the reason why I pulled this up is because, again, if Drake wins this thing, and again, it's not like just a straight defamation case against Kendrick, but you know, for comedians that make comments, you know, are we going to see, you know, their agencies at some point being sued if somebody doesn't like it? Or, you know, how far up, or is this going to set a whole new thing? Because it would be one thing. I think people maybe would look at it a little bit differently if he, maybe not, but if you just went for Kendrick. It's just weird, the whole UMG.
No, I mean, I think the better analogy is
like
not the comedian.
Netflix.
It's Netflix.
Like,
are you kidding
right, that's what I
me?
was saying. The agency, like their whatever the comedian's
Right.
agency that they work for,
Right.
they're gonna start going for them.
Yeah, and the answer is yeah, and that's why if these things, here's the thing, most of the time these things don't actually get to a jury, okay? Because you go in the beginning of the lawsuit, you tell the court what you're hoping is going to happen. You go, hey, we are asking for a jury trial. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. It doesn't mean that you can survive that long, because half of the time it's who can pay to actually get through the litigation. It's so extremely expensive. It is, you know, heart-wrenching and painful and all this good stuff. So when you have, you know, big boys, big players who actually do have deep pockets to pay for these things, there's a higher likelihood we're actually going to get to trial. Okay. You know, and you get to trial, and then you have a jury who has to decide for the nominal damages. What does that amount? Do they get punitive? Was this, egregious enough that we actually can find that Universal is liable for defaming Drake? And I think that's going to be a really good big question for the jury of just being like, again, why didn't you name Kendrick? He's the one that defamed you. Rolling Stones reflected that, quote, with its catchy beat and incendiary lyrics labeling Drake as a pedophile, Kendrick Lamar's latest hit is arguably the biggest moment in the music this year. I mean, didn't you say something like that? You're like, it's like the biggest beef in the last like decade or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, it feels like it. Not since Tupac and Biggie have we seen such another super chat. So the Drake the Heart Part 6 was never monetized per almost every YouTuber they listed in there. I mean, so his it all sounds like maybe he definitely has beef with his label. No doubt about it. He has maybe issues on. He could go preferential treatment. He can go, whatever. But I think that I don't know. I don't know what was happening behind the scenes. I don't know if he was having these arguments like, why aren't you taking care of me in the same way? Why aren't you? I don't know if that's his beef or like you didn't do it in the same amount. Ripley making a lot of appearances today, and I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, guys. Love to see it. So, Drake sent a demand letter, guys. This is usually what happens before we file lawsuits. We send a letter and we say, "Hey, we're gonna sue you." So, what did the letter say? So, sent to the general counsel, head of litigation, about this song, which explained that the defamatory material, quote, falsely accused Drake of engaging in criminal acts, including sex trafficking, pedophilia, and or acts that would require registering as a sex offender, end quote. The letter made clear that Universal's actions were causing Drake concrete and substantial harm and specifically referenced the armed attack on Drake's Toronto house on May 7, 2024, which is, terrifying, right? The letter demanded Universal preserve its records. Okay, we do that. I'll explain that in a sec. In the event of litigation, and it cautioned Universal to basically stop, false, it's dangerous, okay. Following a telephone call with the attorney for the parties, Universal sent a letter to Drake's representative in which Universal represented that it understood its preservation obligations. Okay, on August 1, Drake sent Universal another letter, again, emphasizing the harm to Drake as well as his businesses that Universal was causing by continuing to promote the defamatory material. The letter demanded Universal issue a retraction and accept its responsibility in promoting and marketing the defamatory material. Okay, this is really important because I go, what did you want Universal to do? So far, what we've heard is that we sent a letter, okay, number one. Number two, as part of any good attorney who sends a demand letter, you go, hey, we are going to ask you to do a bunch of stuff. If you don't do those things, we're letting you know right now, you have an obligation to preserve everything that you have on this issue,
right?
All records, your emails, your phone calls, like whatever you got, save it because we're going to try to get it in this lawsuit. Okay. So that's what they're saying. It was a notice to preserve. Universal responded and said, okay, we got it. We're going to preserve. No problem. But then so far in the actual demand, it goes, well, I guess Drake asked that Universal make a post retracting its marketing efforts. Like, what was that going to do?
Right. I have a couple questions for you in the chat. Does Drake's own defamatory remarks hurt his case?
Well, right. The unclean hands, someone kind of made that point earlier, right? I'm not licensed in New York, but what I can say is that typically the unclean hands argument is for a breach of contract issue. So, you go, hey, I, hired Johnny to mow my lawn and I paid him $500 and he took the money and he never mowed my lawn. And then Johnny could come back and be like, well, yeah, that happened, but I don't know. I got into a scuffle with Krystle and she broke my leg. Like, so basically, if you have participated in the harm and you both kind of have unclean hands, sometimes that can be analyzed and ultimately what are the damages, who gets paid, whatever. But in this case, no, it's a tit for tat kind of, well, is it really defamation if you started it? Now, I mean, are you saying maybe there's a creative argument here of like, I was defending myself? I don't know that this falls within that.
But still, that's still all just nothing really to do with UMG. Drake has the burden to prove the allegations, and where's the basis of the law itself in the complaint? How can Drake prove these payments were paid to reactors to defame him?
Yeah, I mean, we're not even at that point in the complaint right now. We're just talking about how, people voluntarily did reaction videos and they're like, well, Universal, you are liable because you whitelisted this video and you made it possible. Because otherwise, it would have been a huge pain in the ass and they wouldn't have been able to do their reaction videos because it would have been taken down automatically. Now, what I'm saying again is that under the law, because they're like, okay, according to the law, you can't. That's not true. According to the law, you can. It's called fair use. But, administratively, they're right. It's a huge pain in the butt for a lot of people. If you're trying to react to copyrighted content, you get flagged automatically. You have to file the appeal. I mean, it's a huge pain in the butt, but typically you get it lifted because you're like, no, no, no. I'm a content creator. This is fair use,
Kendrick, Drake need to hug it out. Maybe it's maybe all this is a big long game marketing play, and they're about to release their their album, their duet album.
Can I be honest? I share this with people from time to time because it's just kind of like the secret sauce of like being a lawyer. There's the whole I'm smarter than that guy. I'm gonna prove the law and write my big scary letter on my law firm letterhead and all this stuff. Cool. But I've always just like, I've run my law firm now for 10 years. And throughout that process, I have started businesses. I've been a creator. I've done all this stuff. And for me, I'm not about just bleeding people dry with like having them pay tons of money, like a lot of lawyers do. I go, I really want to get a result. Sometimes in the whole, what else can we do or offer or say to just get this done strategically from like a human psychology kind of thing. And what we do as really good lawyers is we focus on the outcome. We go, how do we not just sit here and be like, I'm going to prove how smart I am as a lawyer, but that we strategically do everything in our wheelhouse, including super creative lawyer stuff out of nowhere to get these results done. So if we're like, I don't know, maybe someone's feelings are hurt. Maybe there's a different way that we can come about this. But I don't know. Maybe we can have a conversation with Kendrick. Who knows? So I think that,
I think not enough conversations are happening.
Right.
Or the right conversations with the right people are happening. Because
especially when lawyers get involved in these things, usually the parties, so meaning, the Drake and the Kendrick in the situation, and Kendrick's not been involved at this point. But anyway, they stop talking. And then the lawyers go at it, right? And they're like, no, this, no, that, right? And they're just, and everyone's billing a ton of time. And at some point, sometimes you go have a conversation, be like, hey, you guys realize that you could just go talk and you can go figure this out. And, you don't have to keep spending money on lawyers, and people forget about that. There's a reason to have lawyers. It's very important. Lawyers cannot talk to the actual clients on the other side and all that stuff, but the actual clients can go talk to each other.
The reality is, I think a lot of times, a lot of these conversations are a lot of these situations, maybe not this one in particular, but a lot of these things could be solved if the two people just had tried to have a reasonable conversation, which is like with both having the the intention of not trying to like get over, or I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of, in lawsuits in general, I feel like there's a lot of, like you're saying, like ego, like I don't know.
All right. So Universal's actions did not change after the letter, right? So after receiving 2 letters from Drake about the falsity and the harm being suffered, Universal took no steps to address the matter. Again, what did you want them to do? To the contrary, Universal continued to promote and license the song, the video, right? Including through social media posts and boosting. And there was a lot of success and negotiating. Here it comes. And negotiating and paying for the song to be nominated at the 2025 Grammys and played at the Super Bowl. Weren't we talking about that yesterday? The like pay to play? What was that? Oh yeah, to be like a #1 best-selling author. Unfortunately, guys, Grammy. I mean, there's all kinds of things where like truly it is kind of pay to play. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I'm still just looking through these comments.
No, it's fine. So let me keep telling the story. So through the summer and fall, Drake attempted to resolve these claims privately. So he's working real hard. He didn't want to sue. Universal's own, code of conduct requires that Universal, commit to nonviolent workplace, no harassment. I mean, I was saying that he's an employee. He's an artist with them, but It means setting the right tone. We're accountable for our decisions. This is what Universal lives by. And they just didn't do that in, responding to the abusive conduct that Drake was having to suffer through, right? The threats, the violence. I mean, and those are real things. Those are real things that, Drake was, suffering through. Now, was it the, result of Universal's action or inaction?
Mm-hmm. Stop buying views and bot comments. You may as well keep the papers you need to care about later. Give a fuck about your streaming data. Drake's The Heart Part 6. So I actually, I don't know where this whole thing was going, but I saw the stop buying views and bot comments. I agree with that. And maybe at some point that is maybe that's one of Drake's goal in exposing all of this stuff is just all the inflation that goes on with these major record companies. And maybe one day these record companies and everybody will stop doing this spot or the botting and whatever, so it'll kind of we can have an actual true representation of what's really going on in music, what's really going on in with the culture and stuff like that, and not everything is fake. So maybe we'll eventually have a baseline of, at least we know, like, if somebody has 3 million plays on a song in 2 days, that they're legitimate plays and they're not, because it gets to the point with society now that it's hard to trust anything with AI, with with stream, with botting, with the internet, which is just different things that you can do. So maybe that's one of the goals, is to I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, what they're going on to say, they're like, they're talking about basically Universal, had every reason as a business to prove that it could really make Kendrick Lamar's song a huge hit. And that's really what drove all of this. And, they go in the complaint, at no point, which I think is a weird statement, at no point during any of these discussions did Universal ever suggest that it believed the allegations against Drake to be truthful or accurate, right? And it's funny because, if someone accuses you, right, if you're a songwriter watching this, if someone accuses you of stealing someone else's song, right, and it's like Johnny Blue Eyes is suing you, and it's always just kind of like, aren't you curious what they're accusing you of, right? So wouldn't you ask, like, what's the song, what's the part, what do you think happened? Like, wouldn't a normal person inquire about that? So that's kind of what the attorney's saying. He's like, at no point did Universal say, like, we think that Drake didn't do this stuff, or we think that he's a good guy. Like, what are they saying and what are they not saying?
Do you think that Drake is mad because Universal's like didn't release some kind of statement in a trade magazine? Like, what are you guys talking about? Like,
yeah,
they didn't
that's exactly it. Universal did not put out a statement to address it, to take corrective action, to like protect him.
Go on some podcast and go, of course we don't think that he bligada blah blah. This is just hip hop, guys. Like, is that?
Well, here's the thing. Is Drake, like, is it fair for Drake to say, if you're my label, right, and like you're gonna own my music and you're supposed to be representing me and stuff like that, if something like this happens, guys, I'd really appreciate if you came to my defense. You never came to my defense. That's what he's saying.
Well, the label's always going to look out for themselves. Like, let's not get it twisted. Just because I personally, and again, I'm not an attorney, but just because I personally don't think, I think this is kind of wild and kind of silly like that, doesn't mean that I'm defending Universal's practices either. As far as like these record labels are terrible. So he's calling out practices that are happening, that are shady practices within the label, and I don't think that he's lying. I don't think that, to be fair, I don't think that Drake is lying about this stuff. I think he knows firsthand. It's just shocking that he's willing to put him to risk exposing himself and his own numbers and things like that for this, to go to bat for this. But then I also understand because Kendrick, he went too much. He went a lot. It was man.
We talked about this earlier in the live stream. We were like, do people really believe this? So in the complaints, they go to the reasonable listener. Any future allegations levied by Lamar against Drake would be based in, quote, truth and undisclosed, as if it was undisclosed facts. It's not a rumor. It's not an opinion. Okay, so that's interesting, because we go, how many people are going to like listen to this and be like, no, it's just like a diss. It's not the truth. It's just a diss. But what they're saying is that that's not the issue. They're like, no, it's a future thing. It goes in the future now. It's going to be perceived by the general public as the truth, because undisclosed fact that only the celebrities kind of know about each other.
false crimes can ruin careers in life, and I agree with that 100%. And that's why I do understand, like, why people, when we first were talking about this, we're suggesting, why isn't can Drake give a defamation suit against Kendrick? I understand his upsetness and wanting to, clear this stuff out, public perception. But I also agree with, with you about, the whole, I don't know how many people are actually literally taking it to heart,
Mhm.
and because it's in a rap song or whatever. But I agree with this statement wholeheartedly, and it's hard to come back, and that's why I just wish that, Drake, for his own sanities, for his own legacy and career, that he just gets back in the lab and he just keeps writing songs or just finds a way to kind of laugh it off, because I think people will let it go. I think people can kind of move past it as long as the songs keep coming out good. I mean, look at how many artists that we've had in the past that have had major controversies but skated for a long time because they kept putting out hits. There's still major artists today that have a lot of past that, if they try to do that today, may not work out so well. But
Right.
they kept having hits, hit after hit after hit after hit. I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about in the chat, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, and we're finding out more every day. So
And guys, I meant to say this earlier because we just rarely like do this where we, release something and then we jump on a live. If you find this helpful, please make sure you subscribe right now so we don't lose
hit
you. And
like.
you'll yeah, well, not just hit like, subscribe. Make sure you come and join our community. Okay, so it goes on. It goes less than a month after Universal published the recording, right? The image of Drake's house. There was a article published entitled "The Drake Kendrick Rap Beef: A Case Study of Mob Psychology." So the author explained that mob mentality is a psychological state that causes people to abandon nuance, label anyone who defends the accused of being guilty of the same actions of the accused, reward those who perpetuate their cause, and do bad in the name of doing good, even when accusations are made without supplying any evidence. The author concludes that the public reaction to the allegations against Drake were classic mob mentality, citing to the shooting and other trespassing incidences of vandalism at Drake's store and overwhelming negative public outcry. All right. I mean, and they're truly, I mean, it's insane, like the studies that are done on mob mentality, and that, people will just pile on. Now, I don't know if this is the case because someone made a good comment earlier and just being a look, having a couple instances where there were people who go and do these really terrible things. Are these were just happened to be two people who went and did some really terrible things and it wasn't a mob mentality thing?
Hmm.
So, the author explains that the mob mentality is why people can believe the allegations, despite the fact that, quote, Drake has never been accused of inappropriate behavior. Is that true? With a minor or something similar, like grooming, or by any underage or formerly underage person he's interacted with, or their families, or their acquaintances, and just about every alleged victim of such has come out in defense of Drake.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that were definitely coming to his defense as well with it, but there's a lot of stuff that's, publicly, from concerts. There's the was it the video of the 17-year-old girl where he asks, how old she was, and I mean, there's like little things here and there, but um
So it goes on, and guys, we're almost
NW
through this.
NWA said, "F the police, talk about defamation." I mean, NWA had their own problems.
Well, now it talks about, like, how's this been for Drake, right? This comes up a lot because, people who do, bring claims of defamations because they have been through something very traumatic and they go, I've
I'm
been
sure.
emotionally harmed. And so let's talk about how Drake has been, harmed.
I'm sure.
They
I'm sure.
go,
That, I'm sure he has.
because of the publications, Drake's reputation, financial, physical, and emotional, has been harmed, and it could have been foreseen by Universal. The Economist and YouGov polled Americans about their views of Drake in August of 2023 and
Oh.
in May of 2024, shortly after the release of the song, as well as that associated images. Drake favorably his favorability rating dropped by 11%, while his unfavorability rating rose by 13%. As of May of 2024, Drake was, quote, now less popular in the United States than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. As a public figure, Drake's reputation is paramount to his career and is directly related to his financial success. Universal purposeful spread of the defamatory material unquestionably caused Drake reputational harm. Okay, well, I want to get to more of like the, emotional. We get the reputational harm, right? And I
Talking
mean,
about
and that's
I mean, Drake has been on top for a long time. He's been,
a
with the
long time.
exception of a couple of situations, Pusha T, and some other things, like, he's relatively been top dog and unscathed for a very long time. And I think that he is suffering a lot of hits to his ego. I think he's suffering a lot of just damage as far as that's concerned. I think that the people are around him. Everywhere he goes, I'm sure all of his crew around him is talking to him about it all the time. And what are you going to do? And what are you going to do? And he obviously tried responding a few times, and it's not like his songs were trash or anything. Like, they just didn't have the hit appeal that, again, that Not Like Us had. But I think that he is. I think that he has been damaged. I think his worry. I'm sure he's stressed. I'm sure he's getting gray hairs because he's just like, I'm seeing my legacy crumble in front of my eyes. And as we see these other musicians and artists are constantly getting canceled online, like, he's worried about himself. He's like, I spent all this time to build this up. And, people, I saw comments in the chat, it's rap beat. This is what happens. And the thing of it is, it's like, or a battle rap or whatever. And like, Drake's not a battle rapper. Like, he's a rapper, pop rapper, great lyricist.
Well, he
But
talks about Universal. So this is where he finally does get to it. So it's like one paragraph. It's caused Drake physical, emotional harm. The publication caused violence in May. Following the violence, Drake made lasting changes to his life, including increasing insecurity for himself, his family. The threat of violence continues to weigh on Drake. With respect to his family, Drake temporarily took his son out of school, away from the Toronto area, along with Drake's mother, for security concerns. And to this day, Drake's experiencing anxiety, worrying about the physical safety of his 7-year-old and mother. Yeah, I mean, that's scary. You hate to see, man, when this stuff, just ripple effects, to the
when it
family
goes
and
out,
the children.
when it goes outside of an argument in a songs,
Sure.
and it gets taken outside of, that universe.
Yeah. So then recapping. So our claims, we have defamation, we have harassment in the second degree, and then we have violation of the business code in New York, basically saying that, Spotify and Universal worked in cahoots for a pay for play kind of thing, with radio stations to get the chart topping, to get, an extra 30 million streams that were false and fraudulent. Again, I don't know that it's false and fraudulent. If you're like paying for it, it's maybe deceiving, but it's just, is it?
Was it? I might get something wrong here. I don't think so, but hold on. There's a comment I'm about to bring up. Yeah. Okay, so here's I got a question. It was cool when his streams bombarded the streaming services for the last 15 years, and it wasn't in his favor. Can I sue Drake for his music popping up when I was trying to hear? And he had an issue before. I don't remember if it was on Spotify or if it was on iTunes, but with his Scorpion album, and people were just, there was so much complaint that I believe that the streaming service ended up having, like, giving free subscriptions or something to their members that were complaining about how all the Drake advertisement and the Drake just popping up in all of their feeds and stuff when the Scorpion album. I'm gonna look that up. I remember we talked about that on a stream, but just to say that, extreme marketing tactics have also been used to help Drake.
Yeah.
There was a super chat I saw that came up in here, but I lost it. Let me see.
Hey, I got it.
You got it?
Great. Dre, super chat. Thank you so much. Drake said Kendrick, his manager and fiance that Kendrick abuses are in a love triangle, and his manager actually fathered Kendrick's son. Also says Kendrick, oh, yikes. Fiance should sue. I mean,
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I'm waiting for the roll. What do you?
That's hilarious. All right, guys. Why don't you guys drop your last kind of few comments, or if you have anything you want to get in there to add.
Yeah, and guys, what we'll do is that we always Orko is a music producer. He's my music producer, and I'm a lawyer, but I've actually been musicking. That's a verb. Much longer, like literally since I was 4. So we always end live streams with like a music video.
Yeah, there's a lot of
one of our projects. Yeah, so we'll end it on that. We do like dark pop music. And if you're new here, just make sure you subscribe. We go live once a week,
Every week.
right? But we usually, like as far as jumping on these lives and just kind of covering a specific story, make sure you subscribe so we just, build the community and do this.
Welcome all to all the new viewers that popped in as we've been getting asked all day and messages all day if we're gonna be doing this. So here we are. Yeah, we are once a week. Usually it's on Wednesdays. We are live. Giving you just tips on the music industry, talking about entertainment news and just different things that are going on within the music industry, teaching you about publishing, teaching you about starting record labels, all kinds of stuff like that. We usually get into like the hard education of stuff like that, but we do cover current events as well as this. So if you are new, make sure you hit that subscribe.
This is 1,000% like this is our passion, because I have a law firm. Like I said earlier in the stream, I've had this law firm for like 10 years now. We have a bunch of attorneys, who work for me and stuff like that. And so we do principally business law combined with intellectual property. And we represent a lot of creators and artists and filmmakers and musicians and, all the fun types, but including, entrepreneurs and business owners. And so I've dedicated this YouTube channel specifically to all things music, right? Music news, but also just like helping you guys with your careers so that you can check in with me once a week and you can get access to me and you don't have to go hire a lawyer.
We talk about record labels a lot and what you guys need to know about in your contracts and we teach you about distributors, which ones to watch out for. We do a lot of like terms of services. So if a lot of artists are in the crowd and that do like DistroKid, we break down their terms of service so you know what you're signing up for. It's like TuneCore.
Yeah, and guys, real quick, if you do have a quick question you want us to answer, drop the actual question. You can drop the word question and then put the actual question that helps us to know.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments today and new, so I'm just trying to get through them. So if you get your last questions in right now. But this has been crazy. Oh, I also use this opportunity just to shout out our members. These are the people that have taken that extra step and have just joined our community above subscribing. So we always want to shout them out.
Hey.
I was trying to see if there was a question there I wanted to get. Oh, I don't know what your question was. I wanted to make sure I got all the questions, but I didn't see.
Yeah, so guys, but that's also why I go live. I go live on Wednesdays. Right now it's 5 p.m. PST, but just check back. You can be on the email list. Maybe that would be best for Top Music Attorney. So topmusicattorney.com, get on the email list, and that way we just like tell you when we're live, new videos, free giveaways. Like that's when we
mix contests, producer contests.
And if you are a music producer, we're about to kind of announce something as far as like a paid gig for one of our clients that needs some help. So you can come on back.
Oh, this is the question. Could this get escalated to the Supreme Court?
Well, sure. Any lawsuit can get escalated to the Supreme Court. You got a couple steps to go through. At this point, it's just filed in the federal court, so it's kind of like at step 1 right now. So you basically do federal court, and then there's an outcome. You can appeal it, and then you can continue appealing it till eventually it's the Supreme Court.
How long? I asked this earlier, but what is your estimation for how long this is going to go? Do you predict this might be thrown out? Do you think it's going to go the whole distance? Do you think that Drake has any chance or has a case? just from what you've seen and what you've read. What do you think?
Yeah, well, and that's why I want to be fair about this. I go, if it wasn't Drake and it wasn't Kendrick Lamar, and we're like, he's just, he's not taking his licks like a man, and he's just being a baby about this, whatever. I go, if it wasn't that, can we look at this for what happened, and did the label have a duty for what was being said and the impact on Drake to do something? And I go, sure, there's a claim there, and this is the land where you can sue anybody for anything at any time. Okay, so is there some basis to this claim? Sure, but my comment from the very beginning of this is, I go, well, Universal was not the one that wrote these words, right? That did the song, that did the video,
That,
and
that if we're talking about law,
the liable party here, they're not the most guilty, at least.
they have the right to change their policies for marketing, right? Like UMG, like if they were like, I want to whitelist something. Now, when we get into streaming fraud, that's a totally different thing, or whatever
Mm.
I'm saying, as far as just some of the things that Drake, the lawsuit was claiming about the whitelisting, and just different practices for how they're marketing the Kendrick song, or letting it, whatever. Like, that should be all right, but just probably if anything is going to get looked at, it probably would just be like, what, the streaming fraud is the big thing. But even though it's like a defamation, do you know what I'm saying? Like, should he be going after the streaming fraud aspect, if that's what he has the proof of?
Well, streaming fraud, again, he's saying, if I understand correctly, the streaming fraud resulted in harm to him because it made the song popular. The song's popularity then resulted in the harm. Okay. If you are lying to consumers, if you are stealing from Spotify and Spotify's advertisers, and even then, they're not saying you were stealing, they're saying they were in cahoots together. So that's what I'm saying. Everything's very attenuated. There isn't a clear, direct, like, hey, Kendrick, you wrote this song. All this bad stuff has happened since then. I'm suing you.
We'll be keeping an eye on it for sure. All right. I mean, I guess that's about it. I will play one of our music videos. Save yourself. This is not like Kendrick Lamar or Drake, but
Hey,
this is
yeah,
just
right.
something that we
You
do.
hip hop fans,
Yeah.
get ready. Brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. This is like rock pop. I do dark pop music.
Yeah. So this is something that we do at the end of all of our live streams, and again, we go live every week. So please hit like before you go if you've enjoyed this conversation. There'll be more to have, and we'll be live again in a couple of days. So check in.
Let's go. Let's go.